But in the interest of clarifying this, when we talk about herbs, can we delineate, are we talking about fresh herbs and spices or dried herbs and spices?
Well, this particular study was looking at dried herbs and spices. So that is, a very good point because that's one of the ways to potentially avoid the dangers that they mention in the article, which I think are really blown out of proportion and sensationalized a bit. So that's why I had a really major issue with this article.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So they make this claim that there are levels of lead and other metals that are harmful to us. And I'm glossing over this. I'm paraphrasing this. However, what is your take? What did Consumer Reports get wrong, or is it necessarily clear about when it comes to these heavy metals in herbs and spices?
Yeah, those are great questions. First of all, they do not talk about the extraordinary health benefits of spices, which I think is a major imbalance in the reporting. And second of all, they just misrepresent it a little bit. Even putting arsenic first on the list is designed to really incite fear in people. And they don't really emphasize enough that the majority of herbs and spices pose no risk whatsoever. Even that they looked at in the study, there's only 5 out of 127 that are moderate to high risk. And they also talk about things like 3/4 of a teaspoon of herbs and spices being an issue. I don't know very many people who put that much in a particular dish, especially strong flavors, and especially not for their kids.
What then did they get right? Is there anything that you felt like, okay, I can live with that?
Well, I think we need to be aware of this. I think, knowledge is power. And I think, for me, what I would do after reading this article is go through my herb and spice cabinet and really try to at least get rid of any of those very high risk or even moderate risk. And then I think just balancing things out a little bit. But I think it is important to acknowledge that, just because something is healthy doesn't mean it's perfect. So it's very important to, be aware of this. But I think for the most part, this was really blown out of proportion. And I think the risk is fairly minimal for the majority of people, including children.
And I also think something that's very important as well is that you take stock of when you buy your dried herbs and spices. I threw out cardamom that was literally from 2016, and I almost died a million deaths.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. And that's one of the things, this can be an impetus to clean up your herb and spice cabinet, because most people, many of the herbs and spices are probably collecting dust. And honestly, they lose both their flavor and their health benefits after about 1 to 3 years. So it's a great exercise. Go through, get rid of the high risk ones from the report, and then write with a Sharpie the date that you purchased the fresh products, and then you'll know exactly when they expire so you can stay on top of it better.
As we go through that exercise, which I highly recommend, can you tell us a little bit about which herb or spice is best for a particular ailment and how we can add more of those healthy herbs and spices into our diet?
Sure. Yeah, I talk a lot about that in my latest book, Spice Up, Live Long. But just briefly, I think turmeric is one of the best when it comes to brain health and inflammation. Oregano is fantastic for the gut. Cumin can actually fight belly fat. The list goes on and on. Cayenne can help with cancer prevention. So I think the best thing to do is just find any opportunity to put a little bit of herbs and spices in everything that you do. So throwing a little bit of fresh or dried herbs in your eggs in the morning, even if you buy packaged foods like soups, and I'm guilty of this, but I'll put a little extra cumin and cayenne pepper into my packaged chili and pre-made soup. So even if you're a lazy cook like me, you can still add herbs and spices into your diet regularly.
Here for all the lazy cooks. I like that. Earlier on the broadcast, we were talking about the benefits of garlic and oregano as being sort of the first line, not the first line, but a line of defense to combat colds. Where do you stand on that theory?
I think herbs and spices do a really great job in general of supporting healthy immune function. And one of the ways they do that is by regulating inflammation in the body and help keeping it at bay. So I do think a balanced diet, I think oregano is particularly good. Actually, many of them are quite good. Garlic has a lot of good research. That would be fresh garlic, not dried garlic, and you have to crush it. So I think both of those are great choices, but just having a variety of herbs and spices spices can really go a long way towards supporting healthy immune function, which can really help you overcome illness.
This is all fantastic information. I'm going to go back to my spice cabinet when I get home. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Dr. Melina.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for more health tips, check out Dr. Melina's website, social media pages, and her new podcast, Practically Healthy. I like that name, by Dr. Melina. Take care.